Over the summer, we at Eastern Church are looking at the life of Solomon before we go off and have a picnic. This is a starter today, just by way of introduction, looking at this fascinating man who actually we think we've heard of in the Bible, but often people just know little bits about him and not many details about his life. And he's a fascinating and somewhat frustrating character when you realise how he started and where he came from. So I want to start with this. In 1 Kings 4 verse 20 it says that the people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They ate, they drank, and they were happy. And Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Egypt. These countries brought tribute and were Solomon's subjects all his life. So this is the very high point of Israel's history. Solomon lived about 900 years before Jesus. He was the third king to reign in Israel after his father David and preceded by King Saul. And he reigned for 40 years. And he was just extremely successful in all he done. We know that he didn't have the best start in life. His father David had this adulterous relationship with Bathsheba and ended up murdering Bathsheba's husband, and the baby that they had together actually was put to death as part of judgment for David's sin. But Solomon was the result of this relationship afterwards. So the forgiveness of God is total, and Solomon comes about, and Solomon has a nickname given to him by God. It's Jedediah. It means loved by God. What a perfect endorsement, to be loved by God. We know that the most well-known thing about Solomon is the fact that he asked God for wisdom, and this was like the perfect start. And it looked like he was going to do fantastic, make great progress as the king. And there was astounding blessing. This was definitely the high point in Israel's history. David, his father, has subdued all the kings around him. And it says that in 1 Kings 10, it says that King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. The whole world saw audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. He was blessed by God. He was blessed. He was just a great leader. He was, he had this great wisdom. We know that he used his riches to build a temple for God. Finally, after years of wandering and judgment, now Solomon establishes the rule of God in the kingdom by building this exquisite temple that goes into detail. And so it all seems fantastic. At last, the king we've been wanting has arrived. But we see that his head starts to turn. We find out that he has many wives, and concubines. And we find that these relationships and the stuff that he accumulates starts to sort of chip away at that character. I mean, it is incredible. 2 Chronicles 9 says, all King Solomon's goblets were gold, and all the household articles in the palace of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Nothing was made of silver, because silver was considered of little value in Solomon's day. He had so much exquisite, extravagant wealth that it just started to lose its importance and its value because there was so much of it. And actually what happened was he so went down this route of appeasing these wives and accumulating all this stuff that his heart started to turn away from God, and he started to look away from the God of Israel who delivered him and established this kingdom to his own sort of success. And we see that he starts to force the Israelites into slavery to build these temples and palaces for himself and his women. And it gets to the end where we find out that his subjects we're actually pleased to see the back of him. So here we have this fascinating character. He had more money than Bill Gates. He had a greater intellect than Albert Einstein. He had a bigger harem than Hugh Hefner, more political power than the President of the United States. And he's still messed up. We're going to look at the life of this interesting character, Solomon, and try and draw some things out of it over this summer. But for now, I will see you later, and I'll see you at the picnic.